The Mummy returns again to theaters this weekend. Tom Cruise's latest is unwrapping itself. But should you spend your sarcophagus on The Mummy? That's the worst one yet. We'll tell you right now on Screen Junkies News. Hello, I am Dan Merle alongside
Andy Signor.
And we are reviewing Universal's Chapter 1 in the Dark Universe, The Mummy. It hits theaters on Friday, one of the big summer releases. It seems like every week there's a big summer release.
Yep.
Andy, there's a lot to get into.
Let's go back and just let's sum up The Mummy in general, because
sure.
I don't remember the Boris Karloff films as much. You've watched them recently.
Well, the original cinematic universe was the Universal Monster verse. Boris Karloff was the Mummy, and then they had a lot of like crossover. Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein. Abbott and Costello meet
much
Frankenstein.
Slower monsters.
Yeah, much slower monsters, yes. So, yes, Boris Karloff played the Mummy in the original kind of Universal horror classic that included the Wolfman. Then, of course, for people of our ilk,
it's the Brendan Fraser years.
Fraser, 1999, which I still think is a fun kind of Indiana Jonesy drama.
I remember them as just being fun. They were just fun adventure movies, which I feel like is a genre that we don't get as much as anymore. And they figured out how to tap that Indiana Jones vibe for a new generation. Yes.
And then we had The Mummy Returns, The Scorpion King, which brought us leading man Dwayne Johnson.
With Jet Li, it just started going downhill.
And so now we have the reboot, I guess, of the Mummy franchise, which Universal is now spinning into. Literally, the first thing you see in this movie is the Universal logo, and then it spins into Dark Universe. And this is where the alarm bells started going off in my head. It's like,
they are
really immediately plugging Dark Universe. They have a logo already. Yep. I'm like, okay. So Tom Cruise plays a kind of roguish... I
don't know what he is. Soldier,
archaeologist, soldier, merchant guy,
grave robber.
He's
a little bit of everything, isn't he? He's whatever he needs the plot to be.
They dig up a mummy, yada yada yada, sand, yada yada yada. The end.
Curse.
Exactly. Here's the thing about this movie. For me, it was that for the first half hour or so, I was like, okay, it's not grabbing me, but it's an okay summer action movie. It's fine. It's the Mummy. You're getting the backstory, Tom Cruise's character, and then it stops becoming the Mummy. And it became very evident, very clearly, that this is not the Mummy. This movie is not the Mummy. This movie is Dark Universe Part 1. And the Mummy's kind of in it.
Yes. Dark Universe Part 1 featuring the Mummy.
And that's where it lost me.
100%.
Completely.
Well, see, but it lost me even earlier. It does what all these movies do now, where it's like over plotty. Mm-hmm. Like my biggest criticism was this: the movie starts with sort of your backstory and okay, here's the setup, things that they didn't need to explain so heavy that they do because they'll tell you 10 more times throughout the movie.
Yeah.
But it just starts really slow because they're explaining. Okay, and I'm like, all right, I'm waiting, and then they never really get over that hump. I feel like the whole movie is sort of trying to explain to you all of these easy, obvious things of like, okay, it's a mummy, she's evil,
right?
She cursed someone. I don't care about the backstory. Right. Give me a fun adventure.
Yeah.
And it's just trying so hard to over-explain itself to me that I don't remember a movie I've eye-rolled this much. Like I just could not get connected to it.
They did that thing that so many of these big movies do. Pirates of the Caribbean is great at it, where it's not just an adventure story. It's like you got to get a thing, and there's a thing that goes in the thing. That makes the thing do the thing. And now there's a new thing. Once you get the thing,
let's explain why those two things.
Where but wait, come from? It's just like it's.
That's not a plot. That's not a plot.
Complexity does not equal plot, and it's kind of. I was looking this up this morning as I got here, and I realized because Alex Kurtzman directed this movie, he has a story by credit. The last major movie that he was involved with was as a story and screenwriter on The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And it blows my mind because he just made this mistake with Amazing Spider-Man 2, where we're going to build an entire 7-movie universe before we do this one movie, and it imploded on itself. It was a huge embarrassment for Sony, and then now for Universal to say, let's get that guy who just failed at what we're trying to do this, and I don't think It's just it's so frustrating because it's like, just make a movie.
Well, yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that sentiment. But the other thing, it's like the thing that I went in, because I went in this movie no expectations. I went in, checked off my brain. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna turn my brain and just enjoy a fun adventure with some Tom Cruise set pieces. And I like Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise he can make a mediocre movie
star.
film fun. Tom Cruise couldn't even save this one. The problem is, like, Tom Cruise, I feel like he came in to set up a franchise and do his Tom Cruise movie, but it's not really a Tom Cruise movie.
It's not.
He has to play confused the whole movie. He's sort of intermingled with all these other more complicated things that are less exciting or interesting. And even he, like, can't use his charisma and movie star wattage to, like, brighten this movie up, in my opinion. Like, I felt bad for him in a way of, like, he's trying, but every time they cut away to all the other nonsense, I'm just like, what? It just kept getting lost further and further from a sort of Tom Cruise movie that I think this movie desperately needed to be more of.
Well, and you could tell they totally brought him in from the bullpen, and his character, again, like Chris McQuarrie is Nick Morton. Christopher McQuarrie is credited as a writer on this film, and I think it's because, like, Christopher McQuarrie is kind of one of his polished guys. Like, you can tell, like, he's a Tom Cruise guy. He comes in and, like, but his character feels like that because everybody else in this movie is kind of in this very dour universe building thing. And then Tom Cruise is the only guy in the movie who's like, hey, what's going on now? And you can tell, like, he just had somebody get in there punching up quips for him, but it doesn't fit in the movie. And you're right, like, he plays. So there's a part in the movie where it's like, this guy is an antiquities dealer. Like, his whole thing is like, you go to ancient sites and you take artifacts.
He's also really good with machine guns.
He's a soldier, but, like, he's not stupid.
Yeah.
And there's a part where he's talking to the archaeologist who's his, I guess, love interest, played by Annabelle Wallis, and she's saying something like, I saw a tomb, and on this tomb there were ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, and he says something like, I don't have time for your archaeologist mumbo jumbo. And I'm like,
that's your character. Pick a character.
7-year-olds know what hieroglyphics are. That's not archaeologist mumbo jumbo, but it's that kind of, like, complete dissonance. Like, they were not writing the character for the movie.
No, it's just multiple characters, and that's the other problem. Is, like, the whole movie, I feel like, doesn't know what it wants to be either.
Yeah,
it's like you were sort of saying. There's serious parts throughout the whole movie, like way too serious parts in this movie.
Yeah.
But then they try really hard to do these jokey moments that just totally fall flat.
There was one that made me laugh, and that was about it.
Yeah, it's like, and then on top of that, it's like cheap jump scares. They're trying to be a horror movie. They're trying to be this witty movie. They're trying to be this overly serious world building movie. It just was so many things attempting to be something larger that to me they all fell apart on themselves. Like, I wasn't laughing. I jumped merely because it's those, like,
a few times.
Cheap, loud sound noises make anybody jump. But it's like the CGI scary mummies weren't affecting me as a scary movie. It wasn't affecting me as a comedy. And then it's like the other thing that really bugged me is it's like I went in expecting sort of an adventure, and instead it's this weird mystery thriller where you know everything about the movie pretty much in the first 10 minutes. You can plot together most of the pieces. Even if you watch the trailer, you can especially plot the rest of the movie. But the movie keeps telling you, like, thinking you don't know where it's going to head, and it keeps talking to you, and I was just like, just give me something fun and give me an adventure, and it doesn't deliver.
The thing with this is, like, if Universal wants to build a universe, that's fine. They can do that. Everyone can do that. But if no one had done it before, I could get these kind of stops and starts and whatever. But it's like, the blueprint has been laid out for a cinematic universe. And, like, when people, to kind of put this in analogous, is like, what do you think of The Mummy? I'm like, imagine if Iron Man was kind of about Iron Man, but also about Nick Fury, but also explains where the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe came from and teased 7 other superheroes. And it's like, we had that with Iron Man 2, and it wasn't well received. And this idea of, like, we're going to build a universe by throwing everything into it is... That mistake has been made. That mistake has been made numerous times. And it's just kind of shocking to me that in a movie this big, where there was a good... In the DNA of this movie, there is a good, or at least an entertaining, as you said, dumb at least, turn off your brain, Tom Cruise mummy movie. And it just gets completely shoved to the margins but we have to set up everything else. And it's like, you don't. You really don't. The one thing that's going to get people's butts in seats for a second movie in your universe is a good first movie.
Yeah,
and
I
don't
agree.
have that.
Well, and to further that point even more, as you're watching it, like, it's just become so, like, while the plot is sort of clear, your MacGuffins are all set up and you understand what needs to go and what. The mummy's powers are so strange to me and vague and confusing. She can bring back the dead. She can cause sandstorms. She can get in your mind. And then you're just like, okay, I hate these, like, generic, overly powerful villains.
She was Apocalypse.
Yeah,
I mean, there's
exactly.
a scene
And
in
it's
this
like,
movie
okay,
where
Tom
she's
Cruise-
literally doing what Apocalypse
She is,
did
she
in
does.
X-Men Apocalypse.
And it's like Sophie. I do want to give props to Sophie Patel. Like she tries her best. She's acting the best she can in this role. And
literally gave her nothing to do.
but exactly, and it's like she's just all powerful. And then you have these like the scientist played by what's her name, Annabelle Walls, Jenny, and Nick Tom. Like I don't believe for a second these two can take down this mummy.
No.
And it makes no sense. You have no stakes or wherewithal of what can she do or what can we do, which makes an action or adventure movie exciting when you know the limitations and the powers that you can sort of outsmart and outthink. And it's just this mindless CGI nonsense of sandstorms and zombies that sometimes they can swim, sometimes they can't swim. It's like it's just this mind-boggling, like pick a lane and just figure it out and do it, and don't go the all-powerful crazy apocalypse route, because it just doesn't make it more exciting. It makes it more silly.
And there's no resolution to anything in this movie.
No.
Nothing gets resolved. There's not. It doesn't
More
tell
questions.
a story. More questions.
More
you
confusion.
leave with more confusion and questions as you had going in. And I went in with no questions because I thought I'd seen a movie about a effing mummy, and it's not. It's a movie about the thing. And even just within, okay, you're gonna make this mistake of teasing people out for this universe. Let's grant that. But then without going into spoilers, there is one monster that they kind of hint at, that you see a little bit of, and then they pull back from, and you're like, okay, well,
Restraint, wow.
Restraint, they're teasing it for a future movie. And then like 30 minutes later, they're like, nope, never mind. It's like, and it's like, no, so you're going to tease this out, but then you're going to give us all this in the first movie as well, and it was such a mess, and it's so just like, again, if these mistakes hadn't been made by other studios and other movies before, it might be a little more understandable, but it almost seems cynical that Universal was like, but we can do it.
It just felt very by the numbers of it, sort of putting the ingredients in, like, okay, get Tom Cruise, great. Get a franchise people used to love. Okay, we got all these characters people love. All right, let's sort of introduce them in these ways. Oh, there's a Nick Fury type. Oh, they'll walk by the other monsters in jars or types of things. Like, oh, okay, here. It's just, it all felt like, okay, this will just be a safe bet. And I think, there will be people out there who will not be as harsh or care as hard as we did, and they'll be fine with it. But it feels very Pirates, like without Jack Sparrow. It's Pirates. It's Pirates of the Caribbean building and sort of nonsense without sort of the first movie's Jack Sparrow, which makes the movie like, oh my God, what is this new breath of fresh air? There's no Jack Sparrow in it. Instead, you're bogged down with all this sort of crap no one cares about.
If you loved Pirates of the Caribbean 2 and 3,
you will love
the
this
plot and wish that there were no character as compelling as Jack Sparrow, then maybe you would like this movie. You're right; these are empty words. This movie is, no matter what it does here, is going to make $500 million worldwide probably, and we're going to be subjected to 10 more of these, and maybe they'll be better, and maybe they won't. But
I hope if they're listening, like, it's like, I went in wanting to enjoy this movie and have fun, but it just got so overly complicated. Okay, so you made that mistake. It's going to make its money. There are a lot of interesting characters left in this world.
Yeah.
Like, follow the Logan route. Like, stop trying to feel like you have to just have everything go together. Like, we got to rush to the monsters together. The monsters being together was not the fun part of that classic monster universe. Those were silly and ridiculous.
Plus, what are you going to do when all the monsters get together? They're not going to be friends. No, it's not like the mummy's going to be like, oh, hello, Frankenstein.
What was great about those movies were the standalone films and like make scary, fun, smart standalone movies for Invisible Man or Hunchback or all these people, Black Lagoon that you're going to bring back. Tap these well and do it right. Don't just lump them together like the nonsense Abbott Costello routine that's going to turn into.
That was a great movie, but it was a comedy. Like, that's the difference. What market research did they do where someone is just like, I can't wait for that Jekyll and Hyde Invisible Man movie in 2023. No, who wants that?
No one wants that.
It's so dumb.
Unless Mel Brooks is writing it.
Unless Mel Brooks is writing it, then that's good. And there's one thing I have to take this movie to task for, is that there's one character and one device that they steal shamelessly from An American Werewolf in London, from John Landis's original, and you'll know it when you see it. And I feel like this movie has to be taken to task. It's not an homage. Like, they stole a plot point from that movie for this movie, and it's just like, God, I mean. Yeah, so safe to say neither one of us. Yeah, safe to say neither one of us were fans of this movie.
Yeah, look, I think it's. I don't know if I'd rush out to see it right away. Good matinee, maybe matinee or HBO. Saturday night when you put it off is where I'd probably level it out.
Yeah, maybe rent it. I would not pay full price for this movie. If you want to get to the air conditioning, if it's hot where you are and you just want a couple of hours in an air conditioning,
go see Wonder Woman again.
And then
if you still need more,
there are less pleasant ways ways to spend your time, but yeah, this is not a recommendation for me either. So that's The Mummy. We
wrapped it up.
Yeah, we wrapped up The Mummy. Let us know. It's coming out on Friday. Let us know what you think. We'll be covering the box office and everything next week here on Screen Junkies News. And as always, we want to hear from you, what you want to see. Andy, we're into June. We're into the summer movie season.
I'm getting worried.
Yeah.
Well, Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman.
We got one. We got one. That's all you really need.
We got it. One really great one. And Guardians, I think. So we have two or three big ones, and we'll see where else we go from the rest of the year. Thank you guys so much for watching. I am Dan Merle.
I'm Andy Signor.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching Screen Junkies News. You can click, select, tap, whatever you want. The box is on screen to watch even more Screen Junkies News, and don't forget to click the logo to subscribe.